Welcome to Imran's Star Video, or as we call it, ISVi, the collaborative lens on Vancouver, unfiltered, unscripted, and powered by community. We're not just a voice behind the mic. We're a collective of creators, thinkers, storytellers, and city lovers coming together to spotlight the people, places, and energy that make Vancouver what it is. From coast mountain skylines to neon-lit backstreets, we're covering everything from downtown buzz to the untold stories shaping our scene. You'll find us exclusively on YouTube. No algorithms, no filters, just real talk. For behind the scenes, updates, and chaotic brilliance in real time, follow us on TikTok and Instagram. So hit subscribe, drop a comment, and help us grow from 100 to 10,000 and beyond. Because this isn't just our platform, it's yours too. Turn it up. Get into it. Let's talk Vancouver. This is ISVi. Vancouver is more than a postcard-perfect city nestled between mountains and ocean. It is a place in motion. Its identity has never stood still. From its early roots as a coastal trade hub to its current status as a global city, grappling with housing, climate, and cultural shifts. Vancouver has always evolved in response to the forces that shape it. With each passing decade, it seems to reinvent itself, economically, socially, and visually, never quite the same city twice. Originally built on the ancestral lands of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, Vancouver's story begins long before colonization. With rich histories, deep relationships to the land, and thriving Indigenous cultures. Colonization introduced a different trajectory, one marked by railways, logging booms, immigrant labor, and the transformation of natural shorelines into bustling ports. Over time, Vancouver grew from a frontier outpost to a multicultural metropolis, often described as both a gateway to the Pacific and a testing ground for modern urban life. Today, Vancouver is recognized for its livability, its diversity, and its tension-filled intersections between nature and development, wealth and displacement, tradition and innovation. It is a city celebrated for its progressive values, but also criticized for its affordability crisis and uneven growth. In many ways, Vancouver's identity is paradoxical, a city of immense beauty and global opportunity, yet one still searching for an identity that feels rooted, equitable, and sustainable. As we examine the past that built Vancouver, the present that defines it, and the future it must now imagine, we begin to see the city not as a finished product, but as a living, breathing narrative. Vancouver is not just a place on a map, it is a story still unfolding. Long before the sound of freight trains and high-rise construction, the land now known as Vancouver thrived under the stewardship of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. For thousands of years, these indigenous communities lived in harmony with the region's rivers, forests, and coastline, cultivating salmon, cedar, and deep cultural traditions rooted in storytelling, ceremony, and sustainable living. This was not just land, it was a living, spiritual ecosystem of interconnection and ancestral knowledge. But the arrival of European settlers in the 18th and 19th centuries brought more than ships and shovels. It brought disruption. Colonization rapidly transformed this place from a network of thriving indigenous villages into a resource-driven frontier, where the focus shifted from stewardship to extraction. With British sovereignty declared in the mid-1800s and the founding of Granville, later renamed Vancouver, in 1886, the region's transformation from indigenous territory to colonial port city was set in motion. Railways soon became the arteries of British Columbia's economy, and Vancouver, the western terminus of the Canadian Pacific Railway, was positioned as the crown jewel of commerce. What followed was a boom in logging, fishing, and shipping, as settlers cleared forests, constructed docks, and laid down the infrastructure for a new kind of city. One built on trade, labor, and industry. Gastown, Vancouver's first downtown core, sprouted up around sawmills and saloons, a place where lumberjacks, merchants, and steamboat passengers crossed muddy roads in search of opportunity. But beneath the narrative of expansion and prosperity was a more complicated truth. Indigenous peoples were displaced, their lands taken through dubious treaties and government-sanctioned removal. Reserves were created, often on the least arable or accessible land, and the cultural erasure that followed through residential schools, legal restrictions, and violent assimilation policies left generational scars that persist today. Meanwhile, waves of immigration, including Chinese railway workers, Punjabi farmers, Japanese fishers, and Italian stonemasons, brought new energy and complexity to the city's identity. These early immigrant communities laid the foundations for many of Vancouver's neighborhoods, from Chinatown and Punjabi Market to Strathcona and Commercial Drive. And while they faced systemic racism, exclusionary laws, and economic barriers, their contributions became woven into the fabric of the city through cuisine, architecture, festivals, and family-run businesses that still stand today. By the turn of the 20th century, Vancouver had become a thriving colonial port, exporting timber, minerals, and canned fish while importing goods, labor, and culture from across the Pacific. Its identity was being shaped not just by industry and expansion, but by contradictions, of opportunity built on displacement, of diversity met with discrimination, and of growth that came at a great cost. In this early chapter of Vancouver's evolution, we see a city defined by ambition and inequality, movement and restriction. The seeds of its future brilliance and its future tensions were already being sown. Fast forward to the present day, and Vancouver stands proudly on the world stage, a shimmering coastal metropolis framed by glass towers, global capital, and cultural diversity. It's been called one of the most livable cities in the world, a model of urban design, a haven for immigrants, and a green city before green was cool. But peer beyond the postcard, and a more complicated melody plays beneath the harmony, one where opportunity, inequality, beauty, and burden collide. Vancouver today is undeniably cosmopolitan. Over 40% of its residents were born outside Canada, making it one of the most ethnically diverse cities in North America. Walking through neighborhoods like Kensington's Cedar Cottage, Marpole, or Richmond, one hears Cantonese, Punjabi, Tagalog, Farsi, and English all on the same block. From Sikh temples to Japanese bakeries, the city's cultural fabric is vivid, dynamic, and constantly evolving. Festivals like Car Free Day, Vancouver Pride, and Vancouver International Film Festival reflect the city's efforts to celebrate difference while weaving a shared civic identity. Economically, Vancouver is no longer just a port town, it's a tech, film, and sustainability powerhouse. The city's Hollywood North status has made it a hotspot for major film productions, while its startup ecosystem, with hubs like Mount Pleasant, Gastown, and Surrey Innovation Boulevard, continues to attract venture capital and creative talent. Add to that a booming green tech sector, and Vancouver positions itself as a city not just of the present, but of the future. Despite its global allure, Vancouver faces growing local tensions. Central to this is the affordability crisis. Vancouver's real estate is among the world's priciest, out of reach for many. Young people are priced out, service workers face long commutes, and renters struggle with rising costs. The dream of thriving in Vancouver is now a balancing act. Housing isn't the only issue. The city grapples with its identity: community haven or luxury showroom. Public anger targets foreign investors, but the issue is systemic. Zoning laws and speculative development have turned Vancouver's housing into a global asset, often at locals' expense. The city is also confronting its colonial past. Land acknowledgements are common, but true reconciliation is uneven. Displacement continues in debates on land use and development. Projects like the Senwakyu development offer new models of sovereignty and empowerment, but remain exceptions. Add to that the opioid crisis, one of the worst in Canada, which has turned parts of Vancouver, especially the downtown east side, into epicenters of tragedy and resilience. The city's progressive harm reduction strategies have saved lives, but the root causes, poverty, trauma, housing instability, continue to challenge every level of government. Still, amidst the chaos and contradiction, Vancouver continues to shine with possibility. It is a city of bold urban experimentation, bike lanes, rooftop gardens, community co-ops, and zero-waste markets. It is a city where climate activism thrives, where youth lead marches and Indigenous land defenders stand on the front lines of environmental justice. It's a place where the local coffee shop is likely to double as a gallery, community hub, and live music venue, proof that art and resistance are always brewing just beneath the surface. So what is Vancouver today? It's not one thing. It is a city of tensions and truths, where global wealth meets local struggle, where heritage fights for space beside high-rise luxury, and where every street carries the sound of reinvention. If the past has defined Vancouver's roots and the present has revealed its contradictions, then the future is a wide-open canvas, still unpainted but brimming with potential. The question isn't whether Vancouver will change, because it will. The real question is, what kind of city will it choose to become? To imagine Vancouver's future is to reimagine urban possibility itself, to take the best of its existing spirit and reshape it through bold vision, equity, and innovation. In many ways, the seeds of that future are already being sown. One of the clearest indicators is the rise of Indigenous-led development, with projects like Senwakyu, the ambitious housing and sustainability initiative led by the Squamish Nation. Unlike conventional real estate ventures, Senwakyu isn't just a mega project. It's a model for land reclamation, economic sovereignty, and cultural resurgence, redefining how development can be done on Indigenous terms. This kind of leadership opens the door for a future Vancouver that centers reconciliation in its physical and political structures, not as symbolic gestures, but as concrete, community-led blueprints. It sets a precedent for integrating Indigenous knowledge into urban planning, from land stewardship and ecological resilience to community-centered housing and governance. Meanwhile, the challenges of affordability and access are pushing architects, planners, and policymakers to think beyond the single-family dream. The Vancouver of the future may look less like a city of private lots and more like a web of cooperative housing, modular design, and vertical villages. Already, younger generations are shifting cultural attitudes towards shared living, intentional communities, and sustainability-first architecture. These emerging values could help redefine what it means to own space, not as a status symbol, but as a shared responsibility. On the tech and economic front, Vancouver is quietly becoming a hub for emerging industries, from green tech and climate-focused startups to Web3, artificial intelligence, and life sciences. The city is poised to lead in sectors that prioritize innovation with impact. With its highly educated population, close proximity to Silicon Valley, and growing ecosystem of incubators and accelerators, Vancouver has the ingredients to become a global test site for ethical, inclusive innovation. At the same time, climate resilience will be non-negotiable. Sea level rise, forest fires, and ecological degradation are already knocking on the city's door. In response, Vancouver's future identity must be deeply intertwined with climate leadership, not just through policy, but through everyday life. Urban agriculture, green roofs, flood-adaptive infrastructure, and car-free neighborhoods are just a few of the initiatives being explored or implemented. The city has the opportunity to become a living laboratory for sustainable urbanism, one that doesn't just survive climate change, but thrives through it. Culturally, Vancouver's future may hinge not on buildings or budgets, but on belonging. And the question of who gets to feel at home in the city and who is pushed to the margins will remain at the heart of its identity. For this reason, community-centered investment in the arts, local media, Indigenous languages, youth programs, and accessible public space will be essential. A city is more than infrastructure, it is narrative, memory, and the people who carry it forward. And perhaps that's the most exciting thing about Vancouver's future. It's not fixed. It's not waiting to be inherited. It's waiting to be imagined. Whether you're a student with a plan, an architect with a prototype, or an activist with a megaphone, the Vancouver of tomorrow is shaped by what we build and what we refuse to let go of. In the end, reimagining Vancouver isn't about abandoning what it is. It's about unlocking what it has always had the potential to become: a city of justice, beauty, innovation, and deep cultural roots. A city not just to live in, but to live up to. If cities were novels, Vancouver would be one still mid-chapter, layered, restless, poetic, and full of revision. Its narrative doesn't arrive neatly wrapped because it was never meant to. Vancouver's identity has always been fluid, shifting with each generation, shaped by tension as much as by triumph. It's a place built on layered truths: the memory of unceded Indigenous land, the grit of working-class roots, the elegance of Pacific modernism, and the contradictions of global capital, all sharing the same narrow shoreline. And yet, for all its complexity, Vancouver remains deeply alive, not as a monument to what was, but as a city becoming. From the salmon-rich estuaries that sustained Indigenous nations for millennia to the glass towers that reflect both sunlight and scrutiny, this place has always been defined not by stillness, but by movement. It evolves in real time, powered by those who imagine something better, louder, or more just than what came before. In many ways, Vancouver is a city of questions more than answers. What kind of city are we building, and for whom? How do we honor the land while reimagining the skyline? What does growth look like when rooted in care, culture, and equity? These are not rhetorical questions, they're daily decisions made by artists, architects, elders, educators, activists, and everyday citizens trying to make meaning in a city that moves fast and dreams big. The beauty is that the next pages are unwritten. Vancouver's future won't be decided solely in boardrooms or ballot boxes, but in classrooms, community gardens, public libraries, laneway projects, and living rooms where people dare to ask, what if we did it differently? Whether you were born here, landed here, or found your way through somewhere in between, your voice belongs in this story. Because the true identity of a city isn't found in its branding, it's found in its people. So, here we are, pen in hand, standing at the intersection of memory and possibility. And as the sun sets over English Bay and the skyline glows one more time, remember, Vancouver is not finished. It's unfolding. And the next line could very well be yours. And just like that, the city's pulse slows. But the story doesn't stop. You've been watching ISVi Intro video, where voices come together and the city speaks back. We're a crew, not a single face. A movement, not a moment. And every episode, that's built with you, for you, by all of us. From the seawall to the skyline, from underground voices to rooftop vibes. We're telling the stories that don't make the news, but make the neighborhood. If this episode hit, pass it on. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram. Drop a comment and tell us what your Vancouver sounds like. We're building this together, clip by clip, story by story. Like, comment your opinions, subscribe, and support the channel's growth, and share this video with your friends, family, and pet animals. This is ISVi, signing off.